And today we are going to talk about activities, which is which comes after the Bible story in the lessons. Then we have activities. Or wait, it comes after songs and games. I'm sorry, I forgot the sequence, but I'll go ahead and show you the activities portion of the lesson. And hi, Joselene. Joselene, good to see you.
Hi, good, and you?
Good, good. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so I'm gonna share. And here is my PowerPoint. So we're going to take a look at this lesson. Yes, the activities section comes right after the Bible story. So after we read the Bible story and answer those questions, we then come to the portion of the lesson where we want students to do some different activities to practice their listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills. And so the first activity we usually have is a listening exercise where they listen to a dictation and they have to fill in the blanks with words that they've learned in the vocabulary section. And so we try to make these lessons be some sort of realistic things that they might hear, like this one's an airport announcement. And so they don't have to understand 100% of it, but they are just listening for the words that we've been practicing. And here in this lesson, we've been practicing the SW and FR sounds, the SW and FR sounds. And so you can see we've got a word bank up here with a bunch of words. And we have some extra words in there just to make it a little bit more challenging. Now, if you wanted to make it easier for your students, you could eliminate those extra words, just delete them. And so they would have 10 words and 10 answers. That would make it easier for them. If you wanted to make it harder, you could hide all of the words so they can't see the words at all, and they would just have to try to write them in. And also it depends how your students are doing this. If they have printed handouts, they could write on their handouts. Often teachers will just have them use a piece of notebook paper. So take out a piece of notebook paper, write the numbers 1 through 10, listen as I read this, and write in the correct missing words. Now we do have the option to use the dictation. So if you don't want to read it yourself, you can click on the little sound icon and the narrator will read it for you. But if you want to read it yourself, it's down here in the teacher's notes. And so our teacher's notes always tell us exactly what to do. In this one, it says, read the airport announcement 3 times as students listen and fill in the words. They can write the answers 1 through 10 on paper or electronic devices. So sometimes students have a tablet or a smartphone or computer, and you can have them write the words on that if they prefer. And so then I would just go ahead and read this. May I have your attention, please? Flight 316 to Ghana, Africa, and flight 489 to Mexico City will be 1 hour late. However, all flights from Europe, including France and Switzerland, are scheduled to arrive on time. While waiting for your delayed Ghanaian or Mexican flights, please enjoy some fresh oranges and other fruit, as well as Swiss cocoa, coffee, and tea free of charge. If you are a frequent flyer, you may wait in our friendly and comfortable lounge area. So again, there may be some new words in here for them, and they may not know comfortable lounge area, but that's okay. They don't need to know everything. They just have to be listening for these specific words that start with FR or SW. And so usually I'll read it once, I'll read it a second time, and then I'll ask them, do you guys want me to read it one more time? And sometimes they'll be like, nope, we're finished. We got all 10 words, and that's fine. Or sometimes they'll need it a few extra times. So depending on the level of your class, you always want to adjust it to what they need. And then after they've completed it, then I will usually show them the teacher's notes with the answers, and we'll go over them and check them. And this is a good opportunity for your stronger students. You could have them read it out loud from the script here, or you can just go through the individual words. So you could say like number one is, then pick on a student and say, Inji, what answer did you have for number one? And go ahead, Inji, you can answer it.
From.
Excellent, very good. Number one is from. Good job, Inji. And so you you can do that. And the nice thing about this is, as the students give their answers, they're also practicing again those particular sounds that we're focusing on in this lesson. So that is one of the activities we have. I'm also going to show you this in another lesson, just so you can see how it varies. So the one I just showed you with the airport announcement was from lesson number 30 of the A1 level. And so those are, it's a higher level, so it's getting more complex. Here, I'm going to show you an example of the listening exercise from lesson 8. So in lesson 8, you can see, instead of being an entire airport announcement, they are just going to listen to 7 sentences, and they have to write the word on the line. So this is much easier, but once again, you can either click here on the speaker icon and the narrator will read it, or you can read it yourself, or both. You can alternate. So I think sometimes my students get tired of hearing my voice. It's nice for them to hear a variety of voices, because they get accustomed to understanding their teacher, and then sometimes it's harder for them when they speak to other people who pronounce things a little bit differently. So for this one, I just go down here and I'd say number one, sun, sun. I like the sun, sun. And so if students are, if they have a printout, they can write it on their printout. If they're using it on the computer, they can just go ahead and write the word on their computer. Again, if you want to make it more challenging for them, you can hide the word bank. And you can just go ahead and delete those words or cover them up with a rectangle. So a lot of times I'll just create a rectangle shape, and I will use that to, to hide the word bank so that they can't see it. So that can make it, you can make it a little easier or a little bit harder. The other thing you can do if they're really low level is delete the extra words that are not in the answers. So you can see we only have 7 target words, but we've got, 20 possible answers. So to make it easier for them, you could take out all of the non-answer words and give them fewer to pick from. Any questions on this listening part of the activity?
Elena, the one question I had, but I think you may have answered it because for the more advanced level, you read the whole scenario all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess if they're more intermediate, would you ever just do it sentence by sentence, or because you want them to get more of the flow of the conversation, would you still maybe read it through once and then like break it down? Because there was a lot to do at one time, but maybe for an advanced student, it wasn't.
Right. No, Kimberly, that's a really good point. So sometimes what I'll do is tell them, the first time I read it, don't even write anything down. Put your pen down, just listen, and I'm going to read it through one time. And then, yes, you're right. If I want to make it simpler, I'll just do it sentence by sentence and read the first sentence and maybe read that 2 or 3 times till they get it, and then go on to the second sentence. So you always want to be tuned into teaching to the level of your students. If they seem overwhelmed, they can just shut down and they won't even try. So you want to, break it into smaller pieces, or sometimes break it into stages. So the first time we're just listening to try to understand the whole thing, and then we'll go down, break it down into those individual sentences. That's a great idea. Thank you for reminding me of that, Kim.
Okay.
And then the other thing you can do, if they're really, really struggling and you want to make it a little bit easier, you could give them some of the letters of the words, so if they're really having trouble writing the word sun, I could put S blank N, and they just have to fill in one letter of that. Or I could just give them the first letter and have them guess the rest of it. So whatever it takes. Now, it's easier when you're teaching one-on-one. When you've only got one student, you can make it really super customized to what they need. And when you have a group, a class with a number of students, you're going to have people of varying levels. So that's going to be more challenging to try to have it fit everybody's level. So you just have to play around with it a little bit to see what's working well with your students. So then on our next activity here, our second activity is usually pair work. And here you put the students into pairs. If you only have one student, it's going to be you and your student are the pair. But if you have a larger class, you can put them in pairs. And if there's an odd number, you as the teacher can be a partner with one of the students. And so what you're going to do is start out here. This lesson was on telling time. So we're going to start out by describing the clocks with simple sentences. So I can just say, I see 12 clocks. They have different times. And then we're going to model by asking questions. What time is it when I eat breakfast? Prakash, what time is it when I eat breakfast? Oh, I may have lost Prakash. How about Kezia? What time is it when I eat breakfast?
It's 7 a.m.
Good. Yes, it's 7 a.m. Great. And Mike, what time is it when I drink coffee?
11 a.m.
Excellent. Good job. So we go through that. As the teacher, I model a couple of those. And then we have the students work in pairs on that. Now, if you want to make it, and so then they can go ahead, work with their partner and put those all in. If you want, you could also have them write the times in those gray boxes below. And then you can say, you can have them do questions. So what time, Inji, what time do I walk the dog?
2 o'clock.
Okay,
PM.
good. And Inji, what do I do at 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock. You should drink water.
Yes, very good. And so then you can, to make it a little more challenging, you can ask the times and they have to say the phrase. So what do I do at 12 o'clock? I eat lunch. What do I do at 9 a.m.? I study. Any questions on that one? So again, it's just a fun pair activity. This gives students a chance to use the language that they've learned earlier in the lesson on telling time. And then our third activity of pair work, this time, there's 2 parts to this. So first, we ask students to complete writing the questions with their own words, and they have to put a question mark at the end. So this is important at the A1 level, where we're really learning to put question marks or periods at the end of our sentences. And so they're going to basically create a little questionnaire, and each student can use different words in here. And so when they go to ask the questions to their partners, these are going to be possibly different questions that they're asking one another. So here we've got, is it time for breakfast? Yes, it is. That's our model. And then I could say for the next question, isn't it 2 o'clock? What's the time? What time is, again, they can fill in, the students will be filling this in with words of their choice. And some of them, there's only a couple of possibilities. Some of them, they can get more creative. So what is your bedtime? What time is lunch? What time is English class? And then once they've completed writing these questions, they're going to ask them to their partner. So I can ask, Mike, what is your bedtime?
10:30 p.m.
Okay, good. And then I can write your answer in here, 10:30 p.m. Now, if we want to make it a little more challenging, we can have them do a complete sentence and say, my bedtime is 10:30 p.m. and make sure they put a period at the end of the sentence. So this gives them a little bit of help with writing and speaking and listening. And so after partner 1 has gone through and asked their questions, then partner 2 is going to ask their questions to the other student and write down their answers. So
how would you create breakout rooms for partner work and then bring them back together to debrief?
yeah, so if you are using Zoom, you would probably want to put them into breakout rooms. If you're in a classroom, you would kind of have them, move their chairs to different areas of the room, so hopefully they can hear each other a little bit better. And then if you do have them in Zoom breakout rooms, then as the teacher, you can go and visit those different breakout rooms and see how they are doing in each of those. Yeah, that's a great question. All right, and any other questions about this one? Okay, so I'm going to go to our other lesson now. This was, oops, that's not lesson 30. Here's lesson 30. So here's another example of an activity. This is an activity from lesson 30, and you're going to fill in the chart for people in your class. So students would have to practice making the questions that they had learned earlier and asking them to everybody in the class. So what is your name? What is your country, your continent, your nationality, and your language? And so the teacher's gonna model this first with one of the students. And so I can say, Kezia, what is your nationality?
I am Brazilian.
And what language do you speak?
I speak Portuguese.
And what continent do you live on?
I live in South America.
Yes, very good. Excellent.
Thank you.
So you'll go ahead and fill those out. Now, if you have a small class and you just have the teacher and the student, you can fill it out for the teacher and the student. But you could make it more interesting. You could pretend to be different famous people. So for example, I can say, I am Queen Elizabeth. And then you can ask the students to interview you. So Kimberly, I am Queen Elizabeth. Could you ask me the questions about my nationality and country and language?
Yes, let's see. What nationality are you?
I am British.
What country are you from?
I am from England.
What continent is England in?
England is in Europe.
What language do you speak?
I speak English. So thank you, Kimberly. So, and if you wanted to, you could show pictures of different famous people from other countries and have them work on that. just to make it a little bit more interesting. You can also do that. Now, if everybody in, if you are teaching in Brazil and all of your students are Brazilian, it won't be a very interesting chart, right? So then it might be good for people to pretend that they are from different countries as they fill this out. Because we want to get them practicing all those vocabulary words that they learned in the beginning with different continents and countries. So that's the goal of it. So those are just a few of the examples of activities you will find in this part of the lesson. And you can also use, if you want to be creative and use different types of activities, you certainly can. And this curriculum is always very flexible, so you can change it and swap out things that will be more useful for your students. But this definitely gives you a start of where to go from these. And depending on your time, so for example, in lesson 30, there's actually 2 dictation levels. So you could have your students do both of them or just one of them if you want. Sometimes you could have them do some of these for homework. So for homework, you're going to talk to a neighbor in your neighborhood and ask them these questions. Or you're going to talk to somebody in your family and ask them these questions. But the purpose of the activities is just to reinforce the vocabulary and sounds that they've already been working on so far in this lesson. So I am going to, stop sharing my screen and